The heat clung to the buildings like a bad smell, thick and unshakable. Ella May stood in the center of Main Street, one cheek burning red from the slap that had just landed. Townsfolk froze where they stood, hands paused mid-sweep, boots halted on wooden porches. But no one stepped in. No one ever did. Widow Calder's voice sliced through the silence like a whip. "You speak out again. I'll rip that tongue from your mouth." Ella's breath trembled. Dust swirled at her feet as her stepmother grabbed her wrist, yanking her off balance and dragging her past the mercantile like a broken doll. "I ain't your property," Ella muttered. Widow Calder stopped, turned. "No one defies me," she said low, eyes cold and flat. "Not in this town. Not you." She dragged Ella through the alley behind the saloon, boots crunching gravel, past empty whiskey barrels and crates that stank of rot. The townsfolk went back to pretending they didn't hear, didn't see. The cellar door creaked open and Ella was thrown in without ceremony. The darkness swallowed her, the iron latch slammed shut, her knees hit dirt. Down there, it smelled of mold and mouse droppings. Her arm shook as she crawled toward the faint crack of light in the corner. She pressed her back to the stone wall. A rat skittered past. Above, thunder rolled. The widow's shadow passed once across the cellar window, then was gone. Ella touched her stinging cheek, eyes brimming with something more dangerous than tears. Resolve. They said her stepmother came to town with nothing but a velvet dress and a switchblade, 3 husbands dead, all with fortunes signed over. Ella's father had been the last. She clenched her jaw. "She took everything," Ella whispered to the dark. "But I ain't done yet." The storm cracked open. Rain fell in hard sheets. Dirt turned to mud beneath her boots. She stood slowly, shaky but upright. There was a phaeton and creak above. Maybe the cellar latch had rusted just enough. Maybe fate was feeling merciful. Ella placed her hand on the cold stone and stared upward. Somewhere, out in the hills, a lone coyote howled. The sun rose slow and mean, dragging a trail of blood-orange light across the dry earth. Ella May's boots scraped against gravel as 2 of Widow Calder's hired men pulled her through mesquite brush, her wrists bound tight with fraying rope. They didn't speak much, just grunted. One chewed tobacco, the other kept glancing back like he didn't want to see her eyes. By mid-morning, they reached the split fence post, a forgotten marker where cattle once roamed, now bleached silver by years of sun. "Here's far enough," the taller one muttered. They shoved her against the post. She fought, kicked, cursed through grit teeth. A fist to the gut took the wind from her, and then the rope came back, tight around her wrists, looped to the post. "You'll rot before sundown," the short one said. "Should have kept your mouth shut." She spat blood into the dust. "Tell Calder I'll haunt her damn dreams." He laughed. "Girl, you ain't gonna make it past the flies." Their horses kicked up dirt as they rode off, leaving her alone, tied, sweating, the desert heat already gnawing at her skin. Buzzards circled above like they'd read the script. Her lips cracked. Her dress stuck to her back. Time lost meaning. She whispered her father's name once, then again. By late afternoon, her legs gave. Her chin dropped to her chest. Shadows grew longer. The wind picked up, dry and full of whispers. A rattlesnake slid past the edge of her boot. She didn't even flinch. Somewhere far off, a horse whinnied. Then, footsteps. She couldn't raise her head, couldn't call out. Boots crunched gravel, slow, steady. She heard a knife unsheath. For a heartbeat, she thought it was the end, but then, snap. The rope loosened. Her weight slumped forward into strong arms. A rough voice, low and unreadable, spoke above her. "Easy now. You're safe." She tried to see his face, but her vision blurred. He lifted her like she weighed nothing and laid her gently over the saddle. The last thing she saw before blacking out was the sun dipping behind his wide-brim hat. The canyon was silent but for the soft creak of old leather and the slow rhythm of hooves against dry stone. Beau Harlan rode without hurry. The girl slumped across his saddle like a rag doll, dirt on her face, wrists raw from rope. She didn't stir. Not once. He didn't speak. Never did much. But something in him tightened when he saw the bruises on her arms. The trail twisted between red cliffs and brittle brush, far from town, far from anyone. That was the point. Beau liked his peace. Didn't mean he'd ignore a soul left to die. As dusk fell, he reached the edge of his land, a cabin nestled low, half swallowed by cottonwoods and thyme. The porch groaned beneath his boots as he carried her inside, careful, like something sacred might break. He laid her on the old cot near the hearth, lit the lantern. The warm glow softened her face, but not the damage. Rusty, his old sheepdog, sniffed her hand and whimpered. "She'll pull through," Beau muttered. "Tough little thing." He cleaned her wounds with river water, left stew simmering in the pot, kept watch all night, one hand resting near the rifle by the door. Morning crept in slow, gold, and quiet. She stirred, blinked. "Where?" "Safe," Beau said, voice like gravel. She tried to sit, winced. "You... who are you?" "Beau Harlan. You were dying. I was passing through." She looked around. Wood walls, nailed quilts, scent of cedar smoke. "Why help me?" He didn't answer, just checked the fire. "I'm Ella." Her voice cracked. "They left me to die. I figured." She studied him, weathered face, worn hands, eyes that carried weight. "Is this your place?" He nodded. "Ain't much, but it's mine." She lay back down, eyes wet but steady. "Thank you." Beau just nodded again. Outside, the wind rust, led through dry leaves. Somewhere in the canyon a hawk cried. In that little cabin, with scars and silence between them, something unspoken settled, like dawn after a storm. Neither one said it, but both felt it. The worst wasn't over. But they weren't alone anymore. The canyon air was colder that morning. Still, sharp, like it knew something was coming. Beau stood outside, splitting firewood, axe steady, deliberate. Ella watched from the window, arms folded tight, eyes scanning the ridge like she expected ghosts to ride down any second. She wasn't wrong. Around noon, Rusty let out a low, throaty growl. Beau's hand slid to the rifle leaning against the porch post. 3 riders crested the bluff, dust trailing their horses like smoke. Widow Calder rode in the center, black coat flaring behind her, pistol on her hip, face carved from stone. Ella stepped out of the cabin before Beau could stop her. Calder reined in her horse just 10 feet away. Her eyes swept the scene, Ella standing, Beau beside her, rifle loose in hand but not raised. "Well," Calder said with a sneer, "like a tick on a dog, you just keep turning up." Ella didn't flinch. "You left me to die." Calder shrugged. "And yet here you are, still running that mouth." Beau spoke then, voice quiet but firm. "You're not welcome here." Calder smirked. "I ain't asking permission. She's mine. Always was." "Not anymore," Beau said, stepping forward. "Not today." One of Calder's men started toward the cabin. Beau raised the rifle, slow and smooth. "Try it," he said. The man stopped. Calder's eyes narrowed. "You're making a mistake, old man." Beau didn't blink. "Already made worse." Ella moved beside him. "This land ain't yours, and neither am I." The canyon went silent. Just wind and waiting. Calder turned her horse slowly. "You think you're safe?" she called back. "You don't know what I got planned." Then they rode off, hooves thundering, across stone. Beau lowered the rifle. Ella's breath shook. "She'll be back," Ella said. "I know," Beau replied. She looked at him. "Why are you helping me?" Really? He stared after the riders, jaw tight. Some debts don't get paid with coin. Inside, the lantern flickered. Outside, the shadows grew longer. They'd held the line for now, but darkness was gathering, and Beau Harlan knew all too well. Evil don't knock twice. It kicks the door in. Late afternoon sun filtered through the cottonwoods, casting gold across the dry earth. Ella stood barefoot in the backyard, dragging dead brush into a pile. Her hands were blistered, dress-stained, but her eyes were steady. Beau watched her from the porch, arms crossed, silent as always. Something about the girl. She didn't just survive. She endured. She tugged at a stubborn patch of thorned weeds near the fence line, then paused. Her fingers brushed something buried beneath the leaves. "Beau?" she called, crouching. "There's something here." He walked over, boots crunching dry dirt. She stepped back as he knelt beside her. He cleared the leaves, revealing a warped wooden box, edges black with rot. No lock, no markings, just time. Beau opened it. Inside lay brittle papers and a strip of rusted chain. He sifted through carefully, pulling out 3 folded certificates, names scrawled in faded ink. Ella read aloud, voice low. Charles Dunning, Miles Trenton, Levi Harlan. She froze, looked at Beau. "Your brother?" Beau nodded once, eyes never leaving the papers. "He married her, thought he struck gold, ended up in a pine box 6 months later." Ella's hands shook. "She killed them all, every one of them." "There's more," Beau muttered, pulling out a torn corner of a deed, Calder's signature at the bottom, forged and mismatched. Ella's breath hitched. "She's gonna sell the land, the whole ranch. It's why she wanted me gone." Beau stood slowly, the papers clenched in his weathered hand. "She's been playing this town for years. Doctor, banker, sheriff, all in her pocket." Ella stepped in front of him, eyes fierce. "And we go to someone who ain't." Beau looked out toward the far hills, wind catching the brim of his hat. "I was waiting," he said softly. "For what?" "For someone braver than me." Ella didn't answer. She turned back to the box and set it gently by the porch, like laying a body to rest. Leaves rustled behind her, like whispers from men long buried, and in that silence between shadows and wind, a choice had been made. They weren't gonna run, not this time. The night came like a predator, silent at first, then sudden. Torches flickered along the ridge as Widow Calder's 6 riders descended on the canyon, hooves pounding dry stone. Flames licked the barn walls, smoke curling into the dark sky, the scent of fire mixed with sweat and fear. Rusty let out a low growl, tail bristling, but a rifle cracked and he fell, a single shot echoing through the canyon. Ella froze, horror freezing her blood. "Run, girl!" Beau shouted, grabbing her hand, but she shook him off, fists clenched. Calder's eyes glimmered in torchlight. "You should have stayed gone." Her whip cracked through the air, striking Ella's arm. She hissed, retreating a step. Beau's rifle rose. Each breath was measured, slow, deliberate. One gunman stepped too close. A shot rang. He dropped. Another charged with a knife. Another went down, dust and blood mixing in the moonlight. Calder raised her pistol. "This ends tonight." Ella's voice trembled but rang out. "Not while I'm standing." Beau limped forward, leg bleeding from a stray bullet, sweat streaking his face. "I told you, not tonight, not ever again." Shots rang, timber splintered, sparks flew as bullets hit the barn door. One rider tried to flank them, Beau spun, rifle steady. 2 men dropped before they could fire again. Calder's face twisted in rage. She aimed for Ella. Ella ducked, heart pounding, back against the rough barn wall. Then, a distant whistle cut through the chao. Sharp, piercing, unmistakable. Calder froze. Hooves skidded to a halt. The sheriff's men appeared at the canyon's edge, rifles leveled, eyes hard with law. Beau held his ground, every muscle tight. "Looks like your luck's run out." Calder spat blood and curse, chest heaving, realizing the tide had turned. Her gang faltered, some surrendering, some fleeing. Ella dropped to her knees, shaking, tears streaking dust-streaked cheeks. Bo limped to her, placing a protective hand on her shoulder. The fire still burned, the canyon echoing with smoke and distant shouts, but for the first time that night, hope glimmered, like dawn through the ash. Some battles are fought with bullets, some are won with courage, and tonight, courage stood firm.